Yes, a roller coaster year for Sir Jim and Ineos as he risked upsetting the fans. Once again this week, United announced on Monday that most ticket prices will increase by about 5% for the third successive year, with a price freeze for under 16s, but some senior citizens face bigger hikes. I think we spoke to one or two of them yesterday, clearly and understandably a little bit concerned. So, is that value for money? Simon Jordan reckons that it's up to the fans to decide.
I mean, that's for them to say. I mean, that's for them to say. And obviously value for money is different from one person to another. If you're a Liverpool fan right now, you'd be suggesting, irrespective of whether there was an increase in ticket prices, you might make an argument that you were getting value for money. It's the same everywhere. You can make the argument that the broadcasters keep jacking up the prices of subscription to watch football, whilst posting, previously, Sky, huge profits. Yet every year, the cost of a subscription to watch football on a platform that makes a lot of money goes up, and ultimately the average football fan pays it. Jim Ratcliffe made the observation the other day that, and he made it slightly glibly, which was, well, there's inflation, isn't there? So we're going to put ticket prices up, we're considering it, but you do accept, to Neville, you do accept there's inflation. Okay, I accept there's inflation. So what's inflation? Inflation is 2%, so why have you put it up by 5% then? If you're going to make the inflation argument, Jim, you brought it into the conversation. If you want to make an argument about inflation, why wouldn't you index the ticket pricing to recognise the inflation of the country, which is 2%?
Yeah.
Not 5%.
Interesting. Apparently the supporters don't agree with Simon, as a fan group says the season ticket price rises faced by some of the club's older supporters are a total disgrace. So let's find out what on earth's going on with huge United fan who just happens to be talkSPORT's chief football correspondent. And also, I can exclusively reveal, player manager of our talkSPORT Kabaddi team. It is Alex Crook. Crookie, good morning. How are you?
Crookie. Morning, boys. I'm good. I'm quite depressed listening to that package, though. It's far too early to be listening to how bad United are.
I tell you, Crookie, I want to ask you, right, because the one thing, and he is facing, I think in some cases, justified criticism, but tell me your opinion on him, at least coming out right now, talking to the fans, explaining the hikes, explaining the rises, explaining, if they didn't happen, where United could be before the end of the year.
That's all well and good. And, he talks a good game, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I'm yet to see too much positivity in terms of his actions turning into results on the pitch. But the big elephant in the room, and he hasn't addressed it, is the reason that these price hikes are needed is because of the level of debt the Glazers have levelled against the football club. If that debt wasn't there, they wouldn't need to put ticket prices up by 5%. They wouldn't need to take away the 50% concession for senior citizens. They wouldn't need to come up with this scheme that a lot of other clubs have been doing for a number of years, in fairness, whereby tickets for Category A games, the derby games against Liverpool and Manchester City, the big games against Arsenal, big Champions League games, are going to be more expensive than you'd pay to watch the likes of Southampton and Leicester. So I feel a little bit for Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because I think it's a problem that he's inherited as opposed to one that he's created. But optically, it looks so bad when Manchester United are having their worst season in living memory that you come out a few months before the end of the campaign and say, OK, here's the price hike, 5% increase on season tickets. They've already risen the minimum ticket price to £66 for a junior. That was atrocious, in my opinion. And the other thing they're doing is they're moving fans from behind the dugout. Some of those fans have had those seats for decades. They're moving those so they can make more money by selling them for corporate hospitality. And it's all well and good saying Simon Jordan saying the fans should decide. Therefore, what he's effectively saying is the fans should vote with their feet. They know Manchester United. They're such a global brand that even if the hardcore fans do stay away, they're going to sell the tickets to tourists, and that's going to completely ruin the atmosphere at the stadium.
Crookie, tell me, I mean, you touched on it there, you mentioned the elephant in the room. That seems to me, and you and I have spoken about it before, to be the biggest problem. How does he deal with the biggest problem, which seem to me to be the guys in America?
Well, it seems to me that he's come in, and obviously he's a very successful businessman, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, so I'm sure he thinks he knows what he's doing, but I don't know what the plan is, because he's got this minority stake. I'm not seeing any evidence the Glazers are willing to sell the remainder of their shares.
Why would you?
Exactly, because what they've got is a full guy. They're still making the money out of the football club they have done for the past couple of decades, but all of the flack is coming to Jim Ratcliffe's way because he's the public face of the club. We never hear from the Glazers. If you remember, after the European Super League collapse, they came out Manchester United. They promised better engagement with the fans. They promised they would hold more regular meetings with fans group. None of that ever happened. It's all platitudes. And then he comes out in an interview with the Times. It's actually, you know what, the Glazers are good guys. They've not got a bad bone in their body. They've single-handedly destroyed the biggest football club in the world. I would suggest to Jim they have got several bad bones in their body.
Crookie, we can't trust some of the talkSPORT stat men, but what I'm hearing is that Arsenal have the most expensive, cheapest season ticket in the league, and then Spurs are next, and Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United are down in 10th. Is that right, Crookie?
Yeah, it sounds right. And actually, for all I've just said about the Glazers, the one thing you haven't been able to criticise them for really in recent seasons is ticket prices, because ticket prices have been at a decent level considering that the stature of Manchester United. But as I say, it's just bad timing when you're having it so bad on the pitch. You've made poor decisions that have contributed to the financial problem. Keeping on Erik ten Hag, when I think with hindsight now he should have gone. They should have made that decision to replace him in the summer. Dan Ashworth spending a lot of money to bring him in and then get rid of him a few months later.
Crookie, if they look
they're by
at,
no
for
means
instance,
the most expensive in the league.
Because if they look at the league now, Brighton's are more, Fulham's are more, Bournemouth's are more, Villa's are more, Newcastle's are more, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, all more than Manchester United. So when you hear that, then does that soften the blow maybe?
Well, that'll be the club's defence. And actually, he came out, didn't he, one of his early interviews to Jim Ratcliffe and said it's not right that Manchester United fans are paying less for their ticket than Fulham supporters. The two areas are very different. Obviously, Fulham is a very affluent part of the country. Yeah. Manchester isn't. So, again, those comments didn't go down particularly well. And you mentioned Liverpool and Spurs there. Liverpool are going to win the title. I think we're going to all agree on that. They've decided to freeze their ticket prices for another season. And you're talking about the champions-elect there, Manchester United, are down at the bottom half of the table. If they don't win the Europa League, this season has been a complete disaster.
Crookie, just a quick one, mate. It looks like you're going to get away without having to explain yourself after that poor performance at your pool competition last night, because I need to talk to you about Alexander Isak. Now, strong rumours have reached me this morning. They're building a wall round St James's. There's no way they can let him go.
Well, I think it's going to be a fascinating summer for Newcastle, because it's not just Isak who's in demand. I wrote the story yesterday that Bruno Guimaraes is very much a target for Arsenal. And I think the future of those star players is probably going to hinge on whether or not Newcastle can deliver Champions League football. I think if they get in that competition, they'll be in a position financially to give Isak a big new contract and match his financial demands. But more importantly, they'll be in a position to match those players' desires on the pitch, because everybody wants to play in the Champions League. I spoke to Bruno Guimaraes actually after the game on Sunday, and I said, look, you've talked about the fact you want to go on and win more. He didn't quite commit his future. He said now's not the time for that conversation. I think if they qualify for the Champions League, those players will stay.
Yes.
I think if they don't, then I think they're vulnerable to offers from the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool, not just for Isak, but for Guimaraes as well.
Brilliant interview it was.
Cheers,
as well, Crookie. I think he summed up how everybody involved in Newcastle felt on Sunday at the weekend. It was magic, mate. Well done. You've got away with it regarding the pool, pal. Well done.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.